The Vietnam War became America's most controversial war due to the political and social disputes within the U.S. and the circumstances of the conflict in Vietnam. On April 7, 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson gave his Peace Without Conquest address at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore.
Why are these realities our concern? Why are we in South Vietnam? We are there because we have a promise to keep. Since 1954, every American president has offered to support the people of South Vietnam. We have helped to build, and we have helped to defend. Thus, over many years, we have made it a national pledge to help South Vietnam defend its independence, and I intend to keep that promise.
Our objective is the independence of South Vietnam and its freedom from attack. We want nothing for ourselves, only that the people of South Vietnam be allowed to guide their own country with their own way. We will do everything necessary to reach that objective, and we will do only what is absolutely necessary.
So come on back, baby, please.
The silent majority. After nearly a decade of mixed messages, false optimism, and broken promises, many Americans were fed up with their leaders. Through media coverage of events abroad, publication of proceedings in the My Lai courts-martial, and the release of the Pentagon Papers, top-secret government documents revealing the truth about American military operations in Vietnam, could have been the end of Nixon's plan.
And so tonight, to you, the great silent majority of my fellow Americans, I ask for your support. I pledged in my campaign for the presidency to end the war in a way that we could win the peace.
Still, President Nixon remained confident that most Americans, the great silent majority, stood behind his every move. And, at least among the voting demographic, he was right. A Gallup poll administered in late 1971 revealed that 77% of Americans surveyed supported Nixon's Vietnamization proposals and believed the plans would lead to an honorable end to the war.
In the presidential election of 1972, Nixon defeated his anti-war opponent, Democrat George McGovern, winning 49 of the 50 states and attaining a 23% margin of victory in the popular vote, the second largest margin in any presidential election in American history. The Conscription Act was passed by Congress in 1863 to address a manpower shortage in the Union Army, allowing an exemption from military service to those who either paid a commutation fee of $300 or hired a substitute. As a consequence, those who were condemned to serve and perhaps die viewed their conscription as forced servitude in a rich man's war and a poor man's fight. The rallying cry that mobilized thousands to take to the streets in protest. Vietnam was the first war that issued full freedom to the press, allowing media to cover the war as they saw it. Without censorship, appalling images enabled the public to see war as they never had before. Many people believed that it was the media that sparked the lack of support for the war. The Youth Peace Movement. A pivotal time for music, arts, and the development of youth culture phenomenon known as the counterculture movement occurred on August 15th through the 18th at a festival known as Woodstock. Woodstock was held on a farm in Bethel, New York. With a crowd of nearly 400,000 authority-opposing, counterculture-involved young people, Woodstock became the largest music festival of the time period, and a lasting symbol of a new era of dynamic youth culture and the hippie movement.
Shine on me! Shine on me! Shine on me! Shine! Shine! Really high! High! Shine on me!
On May 4th, 1970, 4 students at Kent State University were shot to death by the gunfire of the National Guard troops. At least 8 other students were wounded. The burst of gunfire came about 20 minutes after the guardsmen broke up a rally of 1,000 students on the campus gathering space.
How many roads must a man walk down before?
Conditions and preparation. American soldiers who underwent basic military training found themselves to be unprepared for the conditions they faced in Vietnam. Between the harsh monsoon climate, jungle terrain, tropical diseases, and booby traps, the American soldiers were often forced to fight and resist the harsh environmental obstacles instead of human soldiers.
Forever been. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer.
Vietnam veterans were blamed and held responsible for the war and treated with disrespect upon their repatriation from Vietnam.
At first, rather than giving returning veterans of the war welcoming parades, many Americans shunned the 2 million plus soldiers who went to Vietnam.
Virtually nothing was done to aid the returning veterans. The families of the 300,000 physically wounded, the 2,387 listed as missing in action, and the 58,000 dead were not compensated for their losses.
That it just doesn't see. The answer, my friend,